everybody. We're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Ellis, and I'm joined here by Greg Ruiz. And we're really excited to be talking to you today about the Lightning Component Framework Roadmap. I've been at Salesforce for over 10 years, and I'm responsible for all Salesforce's UI technology. So that spans from things like Visualforce, Canvas, Lightning Container Components, if you guys are familiar with that, and of course the Lightning Component Framework. And I'll be covering all those things with Greg here today. You guys are really lucky. You're here for a roadmap session. These are not recorded, so this is the only place where you'd be able to see this content. And you get to see our fabulous forward-looking statement. Please only make your purchasing decisions based upon what's currently available. So let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. So as I mentioned, I cover a broad spectrum of technologies here at Salesforce, but it's going to be all about UI. We're going to talk first about some of our older technologies, Visualforce, Canvas, and also the use of third-party frameworks, things like Angular, React, Vue, many other types of frameworks, and how you can use those inside of the Lightning experience. We're going to be talking a little bit about base components. We're going to also be talking about some of the Lightning services that you can use that tie those base components back to the Salesforce core and make it more powerful, as well as about tooling. Developers love their tools, and we're bringing some really great tools to you that we think will help you be more productive and build apps faster. So let's start diving into the first category, Visualforce, Canvas, and third-party applications, third-party frameworks, excuse me. So I'm assuming all of you have probably built a Visualforce page at some point in your life. Maybe you have lots and lots of them. And one of the things that we wanted to help you solve in terms of Visualforce and the new world of Lightning is around styling. We know that you've invested a lot, and you don't want to rebuild everything. You don't want to restyle everything, but you want it to just look and feel natural. And so a couple releases ago, we introduced a feature called Lightning Style Sheets for Visualforce that just allows you to a simple tag up in the top of your Visualforce page that says Lightning Style Sheets equals true. And if you do that, we will apply the Lightning Design System styles to everything that's in Visualforce. So here you'll see, for example, a standard list view for opportunities, and then it becomes this, which looks like the rest of the design system. So it's a really, really easy and lightweight way for you to port over those Visualforce pages and start using them today. This is going to be going GA in our summer release. We basically needed to hear a lot of feedback from all of you. As you might imagine, Visualforce is a very complicated beast, and so you helped us find little nits here and there and really perfect the feature. As well as another important feature is that how many of you have tried out the app theming that you can do inside of Lightning Experience now? So that capability now will also carry through to your Visualforce pages. So when you make those things, blue buttons become green buttons or whatever, that will carry all the way through. So this does support branding as well when we go GA. So moving on from Visualforce, I want to talk about the Lightning Container Component and how you can use third-party frameworks like Angular, React, Vue, and others inside of Salesforce. How many of you are using those other third-party frameworks? So a good number of you are. How many of you are an ISV? Okay, a good number of you are as well. So for those of you in the Venn diagram of that, you were not able to use this technology until the summer release. We unfortunately had to do a little bit more work on our side to really cover the spectrum of security use cases that could exist around deploying this through packaging. Those have all been covered, and so now in the summer release, you'll be able to start using this in the context of AppExchange and managed packages. For those of you who are not familiar with this technology, I'll just give you a little brief on it. So basically, if you built, let's say, a React application, you want to bring that inside of the Lightning experience, you now put it inside of a thing called a Lightning container. It's just a simple tag, Lightning container, and then you'll say, here is where that application is hosted as a static resource. That will then render it on your page. The end users have no idea that it's not just another component that's in the system, and it happens to be running another type of framework. Also, you can use any framework that you like as long as you can zip it up and put it as a static resource. So another aspect about Visualforce is around console applications and the console experience. Have any of you tried that experience out? So it's a very, very, we think of it as high productivity, high velocity type of work. It's really, really useful for people who are like in maybe a call center, or maybe this is a sales rep who's going through a whole bunch of leads, or maybe you're a recruiter using a custom recruiting application that you had, and maybe you're going through a whole bunch of different candidates. You need to be able to switch quickly between them and be able to see and keep context of where you are. It's a very powerful experience, and one that's getting richer all the time. One of the things that we needed to do is we needed to support Visualforce in that context. We have been supporting it just in terms of like a main page takeover, but we didn't support it in terms of things like action overrides or also in the utility bar. So those things are coming. They'll be coming in the Winter 19 release for the action overrides, and the utility bar will be following in a subsequent release. So this will really finish out sort of the canvas of how you can use Visualforce inside of this particular navigation paradigm. You could already use it and cover all of the use cases within the standard navigation paradigm. So another big focus for us around all of these technologies, really, Visualforce, Canvas, and also third-party frameworks, is we want them to be able to work seamlessly within the Lightning experience. Right now, they kind of work, but they're also a little bit isolated. They're a little bit like standalone things. Let me give an example. Let's suppose that you wanted to have, let's say, that Visualforce page also communicate with a Lightning component that's on the same page. The way that you would do that today is that you'd put the Visualforce page inside of a Lightning component, and then that Lightning component would communicate with the other Lightning component. And the Visualforce page and the Lightning component that contains it would talk to each other through post message, and you would just shuttle things back and forth. It works, but it's also clumsy. And we want to improve upon that. We want to allow these other technologies to be able to integrate more seamlessly, to be able to take advantage of things like the standard Lightning events that are available. So imagine things like, I want to pop a toast message, or I want to be able to tell the page to refresh itself, or I want to be able to navigate this particular Visualforce page now suddenly to a Lightning component. Things of that nature will be coming and will make it much more tightly integrated. We also want to do the reverse. I want to be able to say, when an event occurs on the outside, I want my Visualforce page or my Lightning container component to be able to respond to that and do something with it, just as I can do with native Lightning components today. So we'll be adding more of these types of capabilities. It will likely take us a few releases to add all of the various types of events that exist, but it's something that you should see more and more coming. All right, switching gears to the base components. So for those of you who've been building Lightning components, show of hands, how many of you are building Lightning components today? Woo! Okay, that is awesome. You're in the right place. Thank you for coming. Base components is a huge tool for you in terms of accelerating your development of your Lightning components. And so we've been really, really busy at work creating lots and lots of these, and then providing more and more attributes, ways that you can customize them and use them yourself. One of the big things I always say to an audience like you is, please keep talking to us. Tell us what components you need that we have not provided yet. Tell us how you'd like the components that we've provided to do more. We need that feedback from you. It's not like there's a roadmap in the skies. Also, frankly, you guys don't use the idea exchange. Nobody's up there voting and saying, I really need Boolean support in the data table, and getting 10,000 people to vote for it. So use the channels that are appropriate for you. Use things like find us in the communities, follow us on Twitter, reach out to us. We want to have a connection with you. We want to understand how we can help improve you. But to that end, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we have been doing and some of the things that are going to come. So as an example, we've been enhancing some of the base components that we put out in the first place. You guys started adopting them and immediately told us, these are great, but you really need to do more. So here are some of the cool things that are going to be coming, and Greg is going to show us a great demo in just a few minutes of some of these things in action. But in particular, that data table now will have support for inline edit. So if you want to be able to change stuff right in there in the fly, just like you see us do in all of our cool, fun demos, you can do that in your own components now, too. Also, you, in fact, wanted Boolean support in data table, and so that's coming as well. Also, it turns out that the Lightning design system is great, but it doesn't have every icon in the world that you might want. So now you can use your own custom icons inside of the Lightning icon or Lightning button icon components. These are SVGs, custom SVGs. Beware, does not work in IE11. We tried, we can't make it work there. IE11 just does not like SVGs. And then finally, in the rich text editor, you wanted to be able to do things like embed images. How about that? With a little clicky button, or maybe just drag and drop them in, things like that. So really great new capabilities coming on some of the existing components, but also some new components that are going to be coming down the pipe. Example, turns out a lot of you like to use mapping technology. And guess what? You probably use Google, because that's one of the most commonly used technologies. We wanted to make it easy for you to do that, because it turns out there's a lot of security concerns around bringing a Google map directly into the Lightning experience. If you do that yourself today, and you try to get through the security review, good luck. It's not easy. We're going to try and make that easy for you with a Lightning map component that you can just use. Also, charting. How many of your apps have a chart? Probably most of you. And you want those charts to be able to look and feel like the rest of the Lightning experience. And so we're going to give you a chart component that allows you to create and pump whatever data you want into that thing and create charts that look like the rest of Lightning experience. But it's not just about the great components that we build and provide for you. It's also about how do you find them? How do you use them? What are the best ways in which to use them? That's not always obvious. I will be very frank with you, do not do the best job around documentation. We have a lot to learn from some more focused teams in terms of developers around that. And we're really, really focusing in this year around trying to improve that. And one of the big ways in which we're doing that is around the component library. How many of you have discovered the component library? Okay, that's not enough of you, because all of you said you were building Lightning components, and the rest of you haven't found this thing yet. It's going to become your best friend.
We hit it really well.
We did. We hit it really well, a little too well. And we're fortunately fixing some of that. It already is out there. It's been out there, but we're going to be enhancing it. And some of the things we're going to be enhancing about it is around the search and filtering. So, for example, you want to know whether or not this component works in mobile contexts. Great. Filter for mobile. Show me all the things like that. I want to find everything that's an input type of control. Okay, great. Show me all inputs. It's all of these, et cetera. Also, you want to be able to bring together all of the documentation related to this stuff. It's not just about, here's the nice doc for that particular component and how to use it, but you also want to see stuff like examples. Like, here it is in context, how to do that. Also, what's all the markup in CSS for it? What's the SLDS, the design system code that powers this thing? Also, what about the framework code, framework documentation that should be nearby this stuff? Like, how do I use the design? How do I do things like use the Lightning data service? How do I access this thing within Locker service? Right now, you have to go to a whole bunch of different places to find those things. Those things are all coming together. We're unifying them together, and you'll find them all within this one component library tool. And one last cool piece of this, we also are making it interactive. So we'll have playgrounds in there, so you can actually dynamically click and choose things and watch the component change, and then just copy that thing out and stick it into your IDE and move on. So we think this will be a really powerful tool for you to both discover and learn more about how to use base components. The Lightning services, this is really the glue, I think of it as, between that sort of UI layer and the core of Salesforce, the data and the metadata behind it. And we try to provide rich services for you to be able to make that process as simple and easy as possible. A lot of this is powered by something we call the User Interface API. How many of you have explored this before? Okay, you need to learn more about this. And it's not necessarily because you're going to go and build another application that doesn't use the Lightning Component Framework whatsoever, and you just happen to want to get Salesforce data and metadata, although you can do all of that too. But this is the conduit into core Salesforce. This is how you understand and get information about the data and metadata. And one of the things about this that's really powerful and important is that it gets represented into your Lightning components via the Lightning Data Service. The Lightning Data Service is the JavaScript bindings of this API. So if you understand this API, you will understand what the roadmap for the Lightning Data Service is, all the capabilities that are going to be available there. Here are 3 examples of new capabilities that are going to be coming with the User Interface API. One is around bulk record support. So you want to be able to, let's say, save 50 records simultaneously of different entity types. I do too. The user interface API will allow you to do that. It's also going to provide support for mass actions. I want to say, I don't know, I want to do an update across these 50 records. It's also going to support field sets. I want to get information back about those field sets and the configurations that the admins have done to those field sets in order to power my application. This is where things start getting really cool. So we have this thing called the Lightning Data Service. And the Lightning Data Service I just told you is the JavaScript bindings of the UI API. That's really neat. That's cool. But it does more than that. The Lightning Data Service is also a caching layer inside of the client. And it does really a few major things for us. One is it helps us improve performance, which is great. The second thing is it also allows us to make offline work inside of things like the Salesforce mobile app, which is super cool. And the third one is it helps to ensure data consistency. Because when you have two components on the page and they want the same piece of data, they are getting it from exactly the same cache. So when one wants to modify that thing, the other one is automatically reading from the same thing. So that means that all the changes you see, they're always being synchronized together. That's super cool. But earlier in this presentation, I was talking about things like Visualforce and Canvas and other third-party frameworks that you might use. And guess what? There's a myriad of ways to change data or metadata inside of Salesforce. Heck, it could have been some random API call that came in from the back end. It could have been just another user who has another browser session open doing something. And all of those back-end changes weren't coming necessarily into the front end. The classic example that people would see is I have a Visualforce page, maybe it looks like it's a component here, and I save something, and then that change does not reflect in the thing that's right next to it, which is a component. And I go, head scratch, and then they'll say to me things like, well, I refreshed the page 2 or 3 times, and then maybe by the 3rd or 4th time it works, and then suddenly it shows up. It's like, what the heck is going on, Salesforce? Well, it's because this one is reading from the cache. And the cache doesn't think it's anything wrong with it. And it has a 2-minute time to live. So it's just like, great, show me the same piece of data over and over again. Nothing has told it that it was not good, that it was not fresh anymore. Enter push data cache invalidation. So we have Kamiar over here. He's a PM. We should all thank him and his team for coming up with this really cool idea. It's been GIFing moving around for us a little while. But I'll explain it to you for a second. This is just one of the many use cases where this is powerful. We've got 2 browser sessions going here. Imagine you got 2 different users, happen to be looking at the same record. One guy on the left goes and edits some stuff, right? Change the website, saves that record. What happened on the right? When Sarah looks at her machine, it's automatically there. It's just changed. It's basically like, you're using Google Docs or any sort of co-collaboration thing, automatically pushing out those changes to every one of the subscribing clients at once. This is an incredibly powerful tool. It will both drive data consistency in terms of any myriad of technologies coming together in terms of making change. And not only that, it's going to allow us to do really cool things down the line, like introduce concepts like presence. So you can see when I'm looking at this record, who else is looking at this record? Or if I'm looking at a list, I can maybe in real time watch the things changing as various people on my team or maybe various back-end processes are changing that. And all of this just comes magically for free. Nothing you have to do. The Lightning Data Service just does it all. It's going to be very cool technology. This is in pilot in our summer release, and we will be advancing it towards GA in the coming releases. So many of you have been on a journey to move from using the classic experience to using the Lightning experience. We've been doing that ourselves at Salesforce with our own internal orgs that we use. And one of the things we figured out pretty quickly was we really needed better information about how that journey was going. Were our users actually switching and using the Lightning experience? Which pages were they using the most often? And what kind of experience were they having on that page? Was it fast? Was it slow? Where were the bottlenecks? Things like that. And to that end, we are introducing the Lightning Usage app. So it's a free app. It's inside. and it's in the context of your org. So, ISVs, hold your breath. You won't be able to see this across all of the orgs you own, but you'll be able to see it in the context of your own org. And what this does is, just to get a little deeper about it, is essentially every time a page runs inside of Lightning Experience, we're logging. That log is going straight into our backend systems, tons and tons of log lines. If you happen to use event monitoring, then you actually have access to those logs today. But there's lots of them, and they have all sorts of different attributes to them. They're a little confusing, and it's pretty hard to pull that information together and get some real insights out of it. And so we are introducing this Lightning Usage app, which pulls it together, bundles it together. It actually creates a new object inside of Salesforce, which you can use against the API and whatnot if you want to pull it out and do something fun with it. But we also create this beautiful visualization tool so that you can understand better what's going on, what are users using, where are they having problems with performance. This is the first version of it. We had a pilot in this last release. It's going to be going GA in the next release. Like the base components, really encourage you to take it for a spin and tell us what metrics you need to see. We've gotten some early feedback, but we're sure that we need more. The performance metrics, just as an FYI, will be in pilot for the next release, and then we'll GA that afterwards. So the first piece will be around usage, and then the pieces around performance will come second. But it's a really great tool, and will help you in your rollouts of Lightning Experience. Navigation services. So we got a URL up there. How many of you know about the changing URL format? Okay, that's good. Yes, sometimes our messages do get out there. So we're changing the URL format. We originally had this format. It had a little hash in there, and then you had stuff in the end. It turns out that doesn't really work super well in many use cases. And so we've been on a big journey to move from that format to a new URL format, which, here's an example of one, which easily enough, it's Lightning Page Chatter. Guess where that's going to go, guys? The great thing about this is it is easier to read, but a better thing about it is that it also enables a whole bunch of new capabilities. A perfect example of this is around deep linking. You'll be able to just take a URL and share it with somebody and get exactly to the thing you want. Another example of this is around authentication. Imagine you aren't authenticated, and then you took this URL. Well, sometimes right now, you do that, and you end up on the home page, and you're like, what the hell just happened? That won't happen anymore. You'll always get to the thing that you want. It is nicer to read, which is nice. But now getting to some of the things that developers are going to be more interested in, you're also going to be able to start navigating to component via URL. How many times have you ever done the navigate to component event, and you see this massive base 64 encoded thing? Yuck, mess. You'll actually be able to go to it via URL. You can actually put parameters into that thing. You can parse it and do something with it inside of your Lightning component. This is something you'll have to enable on a component. There's an interface where you're going to have to say, yep, I'm URL addressable. And we do that for security reasons. So not just anybody can fly to your component and deconstruct and figure out how to use it. So this is a new thing. Think of it as a new public way. It's kind of like an API. We suddenly are now people will be able to URL address my component. So, use it where necessary, but it's a very powerful tool, and we think that you'll do some super interesting things with it. Another cool capability that this new URL format paves the way for us is around multi-monitor support. So, guess what? People like to be able to open up and have multiple monitors and have multiple tabs and have those tabs not be totally isolated from each other. I changed something here, and it's communicating over there and doing something back and forth. The big dance. A classic example of this is I'm a call center agent, and I open up one window, which is purely my CTI integration. I've got my little phone always open, and I want that to be able to know which contact I'm looking at over here and go back and forth. So that's just one use case, but this is going to open the door for also a myriad of app dev use cases where you want to use multi-monitor for other things. So that will be coming as well. All right, I'm going to go through this real quickly, and then we're going to jump over to Greg. How many of you are looking at all at VS Code these days, or the extensions that we've provided? So for those of you who haven't taken a look at it, we think it's a pretty cool tool. Microsoft built it, but it's really awesome, and a lot of our developers like it. One of the things that we've been doing is we've been creating these language servers for things like Apex, Visualforce, Lightning components. And what that does is it makes it so that you essentially are much more productive inside of that IDE. Here are just some of the examples that are going to be coming with Lightning components. Things around auto-completion and hinting, navigation, syntax highlighting, error handling, support for Apex so it understands like your Apex classes and your methods, documentation so you don't have to go to another place. Really, really makes the process of doing development a lot more fun and a lot easier. And I highly encourage you to just download it, take it for a whirl. It's all free. The Lightning testing service. So if you're writing Lightning components, you really need to be testing them. You need to write unit tests for them. We introduced the testing service a couple of releases ago. We supported Jasmine originally, then we added Mocha, and now we are adding Jest. You can also do whatever you want. It's just you'll have to sort of create those little integrations yourself. We like Jest a lot. I think that was created by some guys at Facebook. And just very powerful unit testing type framework. So it would be a good thing for you to check out. If you're not writing unit tests for your Lightning components, please start doing that. We're not going to enforce it, unlike what we do with Apex. So you're at your own whim. You're big boys and girls, but they are good tools. Wake up. And with that, we're going to switch to a little demo time.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. How you guys doing? All right. So I want to start off just again, well, first, my name is Greg Ruiz. Ryan introduced me earlier. I am the product manager for Lightning Components. I am on Ryan's team. And so I want to start off with our Lightning Components library, that thing that we hid so well that no one knew it was there. Yes. We did that back in winter. We hid it in your org. You actually had it in your own org, just no one found it because we only had one line in the release notes that said, oh, we have a library here. That was it. You don't read release notes, right? You're developers. So now you can find it in a really easy place. It's developer.salesforce.com. If you can't remember that, just go to the Resources tab. It's right there. So that will take you over to the component library, where on the left-hand side, you're going to see literally every component. All of these Lightning components, these are the base components that my teams build. These are those building blocks. Before I click on one, though, I want to point out this wonderful little button right there. It says log into your org. Why would you do that? Because when you do, we are going to authenticate against your org, and over in that list on the left-hand side, you're now going to start seeing things like C:myfunnycomponent. In other words, any component, Lightning component, that you have either created from one of your teams or you've downloaded from the Exchange are now going to show up there as well. This has incredible bad news, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a developer audience. You know, in that Lightning component bundle, there's that little thing called documentation, the little thing you never looked at, you never wrote, you never asked anybody what it is, you just said, oh, documentation, I don't need that. That, my friends, will now show up in the component library. So you don't run, yeah, boo. Okay, but anyway, so if you click on anything right there under that documentation tab, it's just going to say, nope, Greg was too lazy to write any documentation. I don't know what this thing does. Okay, so we would encourage you to check that out. Now, what I'd like to do is just take you on I've only got a few minutes, but I want to take you on a very quick journey in Lightning component land, where we were, where we are now, and where we're going. So I'm going to start with this component over here on the left-hand side. You'll notice it says brokers. It has a Z in it. I just realized I've got a mistake, so I'm going to go over and fix that. And I'm going to introduce you to, again, VS Code, because I myself have left the developer console behind as well. I use Salesforce DX all the time now. And basically, I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to fix that component. I'm going to take the Z off there. And then also, I want to point out that this has just a bunch of HTML in here. This is the way we used to build components. This is not the way that we build components anymore. Because now, if I just go ahead and I'm just going to take this entire thing, I'm going to comment it out here. And then I'm just going to uncomment this component. This is another component that I've embedded here inside of my component. I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to push this thing up as I talk. And this new component represents the new way that we build our components. Let's go over and see it first. I'll go ahead and refresh my org here. And, oh, by the way, those of you using DX, you know this thing called the demo gods? Have you ever heard of it? Yeah, it happened to me literally this morning at 11:30. I said, I better log into my org and just check everything before I get on stage with Ryan. My org had expired. So literally, walking from the front of Moscone to here, I created a brand new Scratch org, uploaded all of my metadata, and assigned my perm set before walking into this room.
Let's hope it works, Greg.
Yeah, it just did, right? It just did. Look, my component has now updated. You see that brokered component? It's got a completely different layout. Now, what is that completely different layout? Well, it is actually made up. Let me go up here. I'll find my component here. It is actually made up of 0 HTML because I have used Lightning-based components here to build the entire thing. The first thing that I'm using is my Lightning record form. Now, Lightning record form is not new. We gave it to you in winter. The cool thing about it is that all you have to do is pass it a record ID and an object type, and we will handle the rest because you're just simply going to tell us what fields you would like to output with the Lightning output field. All I do is give it a field name, and we will take care of building the rest. We will build that input for you. We will decide how it needs to be surfaced. Now, you'll notice that I have a little pencil icon there. I can click on that so that I can go ahead and say, this guy's actual name is Ocho, and I want to go ahead and save that. I've just updated this record. By the way, this is a broker record. I'm on a property record. I just updated a record I'm not even looking at, my friends, with my Lightning component. Now, how did I do that? Let's go look at the rest of the code there. Because what actually was happening here, when I clicked that edit button, those edit buttons are actually firing an event here called edit record that's over in my controller. You'll notice that that controller says edit record is only doing something calling my helper class. My helper class is doing nothing more than toggling a show and hide. So what was I showing and hiding? What I was showing and hiding was simply I was hiding my record view form, turning it into, a little bit lower down here, a record edit form. This is new in the spring release. So record edit form is the reverse of the view form. It allows me to edit. Once again, it simply takes a record ID, an object type, and then I simply use layout input fields instead of output fields in the exact same way. Okay? Now, the cool thing was, though, we were able to save that component. Here's the news flash. No Apex was harmed in the updating of that record. In fact, no Apex was even used in the updating of that record. Now, let's just understand that for a second. If we scroll down here, we can see right down here at the bottom, I have my submit button. You can notice there is no on-click handler there. Nothing is there. And if we look back in my controller, you'll notice there's nothing that says anything about saving a record over there either. So how did it do it? The answer is simply magic. But I'll share it with you. It is the magic of taking the Lightning record edit form and adding a Lightning button with type submit in that form. We'll handle the rest for you. Cool? But, oh, thank you. But could it get even better? No, not possible. Now, those demo gods, I had actually prayed to them earlier this morning, and it didn't work. So I have a nifty little recording here that I'd like to show you. This is how it gets even better. So we have Lightning record view form, Lightning record edit form. I made this recording yesterday, and here we go. If I ask for this to play, there we go. Okay, so we're going to start off. We've got that component over there on the right-hand side. I'm going to start doing some coding here. Now, that Lightning record view form, Lightning record edit form, they're great. But even better would be this one, simply called Lightning record form. What is it? It is the combination of both of those. Let's go ahead and let this play and continue to see that now what is going to happen here, I'm going to save this. We're going to update the record or update the page, refreshing the page over there, and suddenly, as I refresh the page, I have a form. That is every field for that record right there in one line of code. Now, how did it happen? Well, again, one line of code, lightning record form. Then all you do is, again, pass it a record ID and an object type. Once you have done that, you can specify what kind of layout you would like. Layout type equals full will give me all of the fields from the standard record layout, respecting, of course, field level security and all of that. Now, you want it different? I've just updated it to change it to compact. So now I'm getting just the fields from my compact layout. Okay, so you can see that when I click on that name field, that was a full name. But when I clicked on it, it broke it out into 3 different form fields because, of course, we know that this is a compound field. Not only that, of course, we're going to handle other types of fields for you as well. Now, sometimes you don't want all of those fields from your compact or your full layout. So instead, why don't we just pass a series of fields? So I'm just passing name, email, phone, and account ID to this time. We're going to go ahead and save that. Go ahead and refresh this page again. And this time, you'll see I just have those 4 fields. Again, everything working in the exact same way. I can go back in, change the spelling on the guy's name again. And of course, we had account ID. Well, we know that that must be a lookup field, so we're going to take care of doing the lookup for you. So I've just reassigned this to another company there, or account. So that, my friends, is record edit form. Now, I like it. It's cool. But then I thought, you know what? Some layouts are so long, I don't want to do that. So in this particular, well, I forgot. I'm just showing you here the controller. There's nothing in there that needs explanation because, again, record form is taking care of everything. But here the last little thing is I want to say, you know what? Why don't we, when we got that long set of fields, maybe it'd be nicer to break it up, not have a single column. So, of course, I can also say, you know what? Give me a 2-column layout. And when I do that, we will once again, through the magic of the Salesforce Lightning Design System, we will go in and we will break this up into a 2-column layout for you as well. No way? Way. Way. All right, so that is coming to you in the summer release. And you can see here I'm just adding in layout type full just so you can see once again how nice it looks. Instead of getting that one long list that will be scrolling forever, here we have all of those fields now broken up as a 2-column layout. Okay? So that, my friends, as I said, is coming. And now I'm going to tempt the gods. Here we go. We're going to tempt the gods, and I am going to show you inline edit on my data table. Why? Because I'm really proud of it, and B, because I have something special to show you, if the gods allow. So here we go. All right, here I am in a summer org, and here is my data table, and I would like to change this. So, of course, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say chairman of the board, right? That's inline edit. I go ahead and save, and there's absolutely no applause for that. But let's go back over there. Okay, so now it refreshed on me, so let me just go ahead and do that again. Chairman of the board. There we go. All right, we'll go ahead and save. See, did we get it? Yes, we did. It actually saved. Woo! No. Don't give me that. Because what I really want to be able to do is be able to say, oh, I don't know, Jeff and Edward and Howard, they're actually all moving over to Salesforce.com. Update all 3 records. Thank you very much. I've just updated all 3 records. Was that cool? Are we ready? Do I dare? Do I dare? I'm going to press the OMG button. How about this? Take off chairman of the board. We're not going to apply it, so we'll cancel that. Sorry. Let me uncheck this. There we go. Now, we will take off chairman of the board. We're going to go demote this person. They're going down, or promote, sorry, to EVP. And this one is now our principal buyer. Okay. Now, has this ever happened to you? You're not thinking about what you're doing, and then you just do something like, oh, I just clicked on a link. Oh no, all 3 of those edits. What happened to them? Are you ready? They're still there. Now, wait. Because I just realized, I just got a word, the person's not the principal buyer. So let's undo that, and undo that, and redo, and undo. But we could avoid all those disasters by just clicking my autosave button. That way, I can just say, chairman of the board, and save all of my changes. That, my friends, is inline edit in data table. Now, here's the good news and bad news. Inline edit in data table will be there in the summer release, exactly with those multiple record edits and all of that. That little offline mode, you're going to have to wait until winter for that one. But it's coming to you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ryan.
All right. I think we have time for maybe 2 minutes of questions. So burning questions. Please go ahead. Jump up to the mic if you can. We're working with the communities team on that. Hopefully it'll be in the next release.
Hi. Testing? All right, cool. So I noticed with Lightning Data Service and the record form, there's a tight coupling between the schema of your S object with your markup. For us, we have another team dependent on the schema of our S objects, and so we can't, change our schema. We can't improve it unless we do major releases across both teams. So we have this idea of view models where we abstract away some logic. So that leads us where we can't take advantage of these LDS and the record form advantages. Do you have any advice on what we can do? Any plans on supporting this kind of practice?
I think we should take that offline with you. It sounds like a longer conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Let's just chat
especially with
afterwards.
Camyar. Camyar, raise your hand. There you go.
Yeah,
That guy
yeah.
right there. Talk with him.
All right. Thank you.
So Lightning record form looks really cool. You had being able to have your full layout or the compact layout or hard code into it the fields. Can we do field sets?
So currently no. However, actually, it's a yes/no question. If you would like to fire an Apex control, a describe first,
Yeah.
then the fields that you get, that is simply a comma delimited string. So if you fire a describe first and just populate your attribute,
that in.
boom,
Yeah.
you're done.
So that's the short term. You know
Yeah.
how I said in UI API field sets was coming? So it's a
Exactly.
pipeline, UI API, LDS, and then it
Yeah,
becomes
we have
available
we
in
have
there.
to wait for them to finish.
Okay, well, hurry up.
Yep.
Thank you.
All these sweet new components are going to work great at Lightning Components for Visualforce, right? Right out the gate?
That's the goal.
That absolutely.
Is it going to happen?
That's the goal.
So most all of my components already, there are a few that we have issues with, but most all of them already do work perfectly fine.
Are there plans to fix a few that have issues
Yes.
like the file
Yeah,
upload?
no, he's gonna,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
he's gonna beat me up if I don't do that.
Yes.
And that's like summer, winter?
It's an
or
ongoing,
farther?
it's an
It's
ongoing
an
process.
ongoing, yeah, exactly. There's a lot, as you know, probably a lot of little myriad cuts. So some will come in the next, and some in the next, and so on.
So with the forced record data as being the UX API, does that include FLS?
Yes.
As well as user context and permissioning, like the $user $permissions in Visualforce?
Dollar user.
That's a good question on that one.
So-
That would be a question for Camyar.
Okay,
He's back
Yeah.
there.
sounds good.
Yep.
So thanks for demoing this. This is super interesting stuff. So I had a question about the offline. I know it's coming later. First of all, is offline also for mobile? And then second, how do you handle conflicts in offline mode?
So basically what we're doing there in that little demo, we're doing a little hacky cheat. We're just storing that into local storage in the browser. So it would work in mobile. This is what you will be able to do during the summer to winter timeframe. if you would like to do that. Coming in the winter release, we're actually going to put that into our CryptoDB so that it will be securely stored. And that's why I said we've got to wait until we can get that in. But as long as that CryptoDB works on mobile as well, then yeah, it would be able to work. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do one last question, then we're getting kicked out of the
Conflict
room.
resolution?
Yeah. Oh, it'll actually flag it because we're using the data service underneath, so it'll flag it as somebody has already updated that record.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll be outside as well
Yeah.
as Greg if you want to ask questions after. Last one.
Thanks. For the caching updates that you showed,
Yeah.
where the pages are like both aware of the changes that have happened.
Yes.
Is that going to apply also to like record detail pages in Lightning?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. The whole thing.
That's great.
The whole system. Thank you,
Thank you all.
everybody. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.